Well, an Aussie who was playing club cricket in Melbourne just a few years ago is about to become the first biological male to play international women's cricket. Danielle McGay immigrated to Canada in 2020, transitioned to become a woman in 2021, and is now the opening bat for Canada's T20 cricket team. Now, Caleb, you know about T20 cricket. The idea is to slog it as far and as often as you can. But because women lack the strength of men, they bring the boundary rope right in to help women hit boundaries. A biological man playing in that sport, it'd be like David Warner opening for a primary school cricket team. The article says that that's Danielle, believes any power or timing she has while batting has been honed from years playing the game rather than the physiological benefits of male puberty. And then I love this quote: the perceived strength that trans women have is exactly that. Perceived. So I didn't just hit someone, hit 36 runs off one over. I just perceived them to be hitting the ball out of the park every single time.
It's all in the head.
Of course, even though there is plenty of scientific evidence to the contrary.
Several months later.
Transgender athletes who have gone through any form of male puberty will now be banned from participating in women's cricket, according to the latest decision by cricket's international governing body, the ICC. ICC Chief Executive Jeff Allardyce said the changes were a result of an extensive consultation process, and that while inclusivity is important to the sport of cricket, the priority was to protect the integrity of the women's game. The ruling means Canada's Danielle McGahey, the first transgender cricketer to play in an international match, can no longer represent Canada.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about some pretty big news. Some global news, some international news that is flying under the radar as the International Women's Cricket Governing Body, the ICC, has officially banned transgender women from competing against biological women. Now, this story is a big deal because cricket is one of the biggest sports in the world. Now, I'm not very familiar with cricket, don't really know much about it, but I do know that it's extremely popular. And this ban from transgender athletes competing against biological women is just another step that we're seeing these international governing bodies take as more and more and more transgender athletes attempt to compete in sports against the opposite sex. Now, the science is clear on this issue, right, in the sense that biological males do have a significant advantage over biological women when it comes to sports, right? When it comes to athletics, and these governing bodies are simply just following the science. Now, of course, the woke revolutionaries are going to boohoo, whine, and cry about it and claim that it's bigotry and hate and that it's not real science. But again, this has nothing to do with bigotry and hate. It has everything to do with real science and keeping women safe. That's what it has to do with, and that is what the International Cricket Council has decided. So I want to read about it, and then we're going to talk about a specific player that this affects, who is lashing out against this new rule from the International Cricket Governing Body. So let's go ahead and read about this. The International Cricket Council has become the latest sports body to ban transgender players from the elite women's game if they have gone through male puberty. The ICC said it had taken the decision following an extensive scientific review and 9-month consultation to, quote, protect the integrity of the international women's game and the safety of players. Yeah, so here's the deal. I'm not sure exactly why it took 9 months of consultation, right? This is something where you don't need a scientific review. You just need common sense to come to the conclusion that, hey, this is not fair, that, hey, this poses a risk to biological women, and that we should go ahead and just put this rule in place that, you know, follows the science, and you can protect the integrity of the game, which, again, this is what it's about. It's about the integrity of the game and safety for the players. Again, I've done multiple videos about transgender athletes who play against biological women, who the women happen to get seriously injured as a result of playing against the transgender athlete. Now, that's not to say that the woman, you know, probably would not have gotten hurt if they was playing against a biological woman, but That's to say that their chances of getting injured increases because they're playing against somebody that has a significant biological advantage over them physically, okay? And that's just the reality, right? That's just the biology. It joins rugby union, swimming, cycling, athletics, and rugby league, who have all gone down a similar path in recent years after citing concerns over fairness or safety. Explaining the sports decision, the ICC chief executive, Jeff Arladitz, said, quote, the changes to the gender eligibility regulations resulted from an extensive consultation process and is founded in science and aligned with the core principles developed during the review. Again, so this is a science-backed decision, right? They took the emotion out of it, okay? They took the wokeness out of it. They said, look, what can we do to protect the integrity of the game and safety for women? Quote, inclusivity is incredibly important to us as a sport, but our priority was to protect the integrity of the international women's game and the safety of players. The new policy comes just 2 months after Canada's Danielle McGay caused controversy by becoming the first transgender cricketer to take part in an official international match during a women's T20 fixture against Brazil. The 29-year-old opening batter played all 6 of Canada's matches during the Women's T20 World Cup America's Region Qualifiers event in Los Angeles to add 2 national team appearances previously in fixtures which did not hold official ICC status. Under the ICC's previous regulations, which were based on reducing testosterone levels, McGay had satisfied all of the eligibility criteria. However, the ICC said its new rules would be based on the following principles in order of priority, quote, protection of the integrity of the women's game, safety, fairness, and inclusion. Okay, so again, what you have here is the science basically saying, look, it doesn't matter what you do to your hormones. If you have been through puberty, then you have an unfair biological advantage, right? If you are a male and you've been through male puberty, then it doesn't matter if you lower your testosterone levels, because this is what, a lot of the wokes argue, right? They say, well, it's fair because the trans woman has the same hormones as a normal woman, right? Because, they inject the hormones into them and whatever, right? And it's like, okay, that may be true, but biologically speaking, they still maintain some of the physiological changes that happen to their body as a result of male puberty. And those changes, unfortunately for them, can't be reversed. They still maintain some of these biological advantages, like, for example, bone structure, density, muscle mass, etc. All of these things still remain as a result of male puberty. Therefore, it is unfair. That's basically what the ICC is saying. The ICC added, quote, this means any male to female participants who have been through any form of male puberty will not be eligible to participate in the international women's game, regardless of any surgery or gender reassignment treatment they have undertaken. The new policy, which was led by the ICC Medical Advisory Committee and chaired by Dr. Peter Harcourt, relates solely to international women's cricket. Individual countries will be allowed to have their own policies for the domestic game. Yeah, so clearly there are people that are upset about this, okay? And the main person that is upset is the person that it affects the most, which is the Aussie cricket star who is lashing out, okay, as they reveal that their career is over after sports bosses banned trans players born as men from women's competition. So let's read about this, because this trans player is lashing out. Australian cricketer Danielle McGay has confirmed her career is over after the International Cricket Council banned transgender players born as men from playing women's fixtures at the international level. Taking to Instagram, McGay stated, quote, following the ICC's decision, it is with a very heavy heart that I must say that my international cricketing career is over. As quickly as it begun, it must now end. Now, I'm going to respond to this idea that this person's career is over just because they can't compete against biological women. But first, I want to continue to read what they said. Quote, while I hold my opinions on the ICC's decision, they are irrelevant. What matters is the message being sent to millions of trans women today, a messaging saying that we don't belong. Quote, I promise I will not stop fighting for equality for us in our sport. We deserve the right to play cricket at the highest level. We are not a threat to the integrity or safety of the sport. Never stop fighting. Okay, so this is the player, as you can see here. Okay. Let's read a little bit more here. McGay previously played men's club cricket in Melbourne before moving to Canada in 2020, where they quickly caught the attention of Cricket Canada selectors due to their proudness at the crease. Well, again, I'm sure, considering the advantages that this person has, yeah, it probably wasn't too hard to catch the eye of scouts, right? And people looking for good talent, because by default, this person is probably going to be better than most women, okay? They began transitioning medically in May 2021, and in September this year, McGay became the first transgender cricketer to take part in an official international match when they represented Canada in a T20 match against Brazil. Okay, so this is my response to this, right? And I actually want to give some words of encouragement to this individual, okay? Because what this individual is saying implies that they're banned from playing sports, period. And that's just simply not true, right? So what I want to say to this individual is this. Your career is not over. Your career is only over because you want your career to be over, okay? Your career is not over because you have the option of playing at the international level, if you're good enough, with males, right? With the same biological sex. Or, okay, if, you know, the people care about trans sports the way that, you know, they say that they do, then start your own league, right? Have an international trans league. That way, trans players can play at the international level, at the elite level with other trans players. And, hey, everybody should be happy and satisfied. However, what we saw is that the swimming, they try to do this. They try to offer trans athletes a way to play against other trans athletes, and none of the trans athletes showed up. They rejected it. So, again, this is not about, oh, well, we're not allowed to play at the elite level and they want to ban trans athletes from sports, because that's just simply not true. It's not true. Okay, what this is about is the fact that this individual feels entitled to play against individuals of the opposite sex, because this person knows that there is a significant advantage. Okay, if you really have the juice like that, if you are elite at what you do, you should be able to be elite competing against those of the same sex or competing against other transgender athletes. I'm so serious. But to sit here and say that your career is over, it's just a falsehood, right? The only thing they're trying to do is play victim and try to act like, oh, well, this is an attack on trans people, when it's not. This has nothing to do with hate and bigotry or not wanting trans people to play sports. I want you to play sports. Just play sports with people of the same sex or against other transgender individuals where the competition is fair and the integrity of the game is intact, okay? If these individuals really feel so passionate about playing at the elite level and participating in sports, then they should compete amongst themselves. They should compete with other transgender athletes. But again, the woke revolutionaries who claim that they support this stuff, the reason why they don't push so hard for trans people to have their own leagues is because they know, just like women's sports, that they're not going to show up. They're not going to support it. They're not going to put their money where their mouth is and actually support these trans athletes if they started their own league. So instead, they come out here and they fake virtue signal and try to act like everybody's hateful, everybody's a bigot, simply because we're advocating for women to compete amongst women, men to compete amongst men, and biological athletes compete amongst themselves or based off biological sex. Okay, that way we have fair competition. But again, if that is what happened, they know that, hey, we probably, aren't going to show up to the games. We aren't going to spend our money on it. Okay, therefore, we rather accuse everybody of hate and bigotry for not allowing, biological males compete against biological women in sports. Again, it's amazing stuff. Again, my message to this individual is that if you really have the juice like that, then start your own international league, work with the ICC and say, look, I want to start a league where transgender athletes can play, which I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do, right? Or compete based off the same biological sex. It's really that simple. But to say that your career is over is not true. And your career is only over because you want it to be over. You rather poot and pout because you can't get your way rather than to explore the available options for you to continue to do what you love to do. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.